walking through a ghost town. Y'all ain't playing my sounds. Don't tell me to calm down. Don't tell me to calm down. Only time I go backwards is when I wanna moonwalk. Don't test me, my mood's wrong. Don't test me, my mood's wrong. We are who we say that we are. You were lost in the stars, and it's all from the start. Never running no pace, never on the right page. But we still read that book, and we still run that race. Ay. Mississippi Racer riding out, no shortcuts, no time for that. Mississippi Racer riding out, till the wheels fall off, I'm driving that. Mississippi Racer riding out, wheels stop burning, strike the match. Mississippi Racer riding out, red light, green light, red light, good night. Ay. Red light, green light, red light, good night. 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 Time to chill, don't sweat it.
Good morning and welcome. It is Coffee and Sports. It is the morning show powered by Wire to Wire Network. Thank you so much for making us part of your morning routine. I am Chris, and that over there, that is Mo. Mo, happy Wednesday, sir.
Happy Wednesday, partner, and happy Wednesday out there, everybody joining us this morning.
Well, we have talked for several weeks now about what is happening down in Dallas with the Cowboys, and we have had several different takes and several different opinions on it. But Mo, maybe, just maybe, you and I are not qualified enough to talk about the Dallas Cowboys because we are by far not the biggest Dallas Cowboy fan that exists. We are not Mr. Skip Bayless. Skip Bayless was talking about the Dallas Cowboys yesterday, and Mo, his thoughts were this. Maybe, just maybe, the Cowboys need to give their fans what they want, and they need to take a big swing. That is how he prefaced it, Mo. And that big swing is losing this season. That big swing is making sure that you are in a position in the draft to draft the next face of the Dallas Cowboys franchise, Shedeur Sanders. At which point, he also said, Mo, if you're bringing in Sanders, you better bring Dad with him. Get Mike McCarthy out of here and let Dion Primetime himself, Mo, become the next head coach of the Dallas Cowboys. Now, I'm not a Dallas Cowboy fan, Mo. I don't know if that is pie in the sky if you are a Dallas Cowboy fan. For me personally, I would just say re-sign CeeDee Lamb, re-sign Dak Prescott, re-sign Micah, get a few more pieces, and maybe let's start winning some playoff games. But I'm not a Cowboy fan, so maybe I'm talking rubbish over here. Mo, what do you think of Skip's pie in the sky, bringing the Sanders in to kind of wipe the slate clean and bring some new star power, if you will, to Big D?
Look, if you like things to play out the way they do in the movies, then I think that's what you're going to get in his vision, in his version, the way he looks at it. The thing about the Cowboys is this, Cowboy Nation, the idea that they'd be like, this is what we want. We want a losing season. I don't think so. I'm sorry. Now, I'm sure the idea of drafting a young man like Shedeur Sanders, who's incredibly talented, would be appealing, but not at the expense of being beaten down in the division and being a subpar 500 team. That's not what Cowboy Nation signs up for. You know, and I know every year, whether they win in the playoffs or not, because they do have a good football team, they have a chance. There is a possibility to tank. I don't see Jerry Jones tanking. I don't see that. I think Skip Bayless is completely living in a fantasy world. They're not going to tank. Your solution, even though you're not a Cowboy fan, is a common sense solution. Give CeeDee Lamb his money. Re-sign Dak Prescott. Take care of Micah Parsons. Win a playoff game. I think that's in the realm of reality. And look, I enjoy Deion Sanders, and I think what he's done with Colorado, the energy that he's brought there is amazing. And I do believe ultimately he will turn that program around and make it a top 10 program. But to bring him in in the NFL, I don't think he'd have the same impact in the NFL as he does in college. He certainly wouldn't have the same control, especially if he goes to the Dallas Cowboys, because Jerry Jones is an owner that micromanages everything. So, and there's no way Deion Sanders is signing up to get micromanaged. So, again, a fantasy pick, a fantasy idea. Maybe just go with reality and do what you need to do and re-sign your key players.
And isn't that what the potential biggest hurdle would be in this situation? Like it lines up. It is the movie script. Deion returning to Dallas. They draft his kid. He's going to be the franchise quarterback. Deion's going to be the head coach. Prime time comes home. All of the stuff that we have seen with him, with the two teams he has coached in college football, all the swagger that he brings in just because he is Deion. And you add in the fact that he is a Cowboy, was a Cowboy, will forever be a Cowboy.
Right.
But Mo, when all of that settles, because that's going to carry you. That will carry you from the rumors to the deal to the press conference. It will carry you a few months afterwards. But when it's all said and done, if that were to happen, two things then need to happen. Jerry Jones needs to continue being the owner of the Dallas Cowboys, and he's not going to change who he is. And then Coach Prime would have to be the head coach of the Dallas Cowboys, and he's not going to change who he is as a head coach, much less on a bigger stage where I think his personality would just get bigger. And I don't think those two things work on one team. I just don't see it.
Well, and it didn't work, even though they had success, but ultimately Jerry Jones' ego, it kind of, I think it disrupted the relationship he had with Jimmy Johnson, right? Another huge ego. There's no way Deion Sanders signs up for that. Like I said, in a lot of ways, you could say it could line up, but he's not going to be micromanaged. He's not. It will not work. He's going to be the kind of head coach, I would think, if he became an NFL head coach, where he's going to be like, that guy right there, I know he's been here 8 years, but he's dead weight. Like Deion Sanders is gonna cut the fat, and he's not gonna judge you off of how long you've been there, but what have you done lately? And I don't know if him and Jerry would ever be on the same page that way. Look, it is a good talking, it's a good conversation. It's certainly interesting conversation, but I just don't see Cowboy Nation signing up to win 5 football games or 4 football games, get the number 1 pick, get rid of Mike McCarthy, bring in Deion Sanders. And again, if you get Shedeur, who is talented, it's not a lock.
Right.
It's not a lock that he's good. You getting him is one thing, but it's not a lock he ends up being everything you says he is. There's no way you could know that. There's no way you could know that. I think there's too many variables. What I do know is Dak Prescott is a Pro Bowl quarterback. He's a really good football player. I think he's got another 5 years at a high level, maybe more. Maybe you don't value him, but somebody will. Somebody will. And even though I think they have a capable backup is not the same as a franchise quarterback. Pay Dak Prescott, get CeeDee Lamb in, take care of Micah Parsons. Do what you need to do. And the thing is about the CeeDee Lamb situation, as time passes, these wide receivers, these deals keep getting bigger and bigger. They could have saved themselves so much money. And I just think stretching this out, it doesn't make it better. It makes it worse.
Well, they should have signed Dak a year and a half ago. That's
Yes.
where the ball dropping began. But that's what Dallas does. You look at, the last 5, 6, 7 years, the Dallas Cowboys, there's a handful of guys you should have said they should have signed them a year and a half or 2 years prior and, got it done. It took a little hometown discount, but they waited and they ended up either paying more than they should or paying fair market value, or they walk, because that's happened too to the Dallas Cowboys. But you mentioned Colorado. I just want to point this out, Mo. The AP Top 25 has been released. Colorado is not on the AP Top 25. I don't think they should be. But Mo, will they be at any point this season is the question. Will we see Colorado make a Top 25 appearance at some point this season? They were there last year. Will we see them again this year?
I think they will hit the top 25. The real question is, though, can they stay there? Can they sustain it? Because they're capable of definitely getting off to a fast start. But and I know sooner or later, when they start playing the bigger schools, that's where they get into trouble. And I know Dion said he's gone out and he's gotten some guys. I'm sure he has, and they're going to be improved. But they needed a ton of improvement on the defensive side of the football. Like their linemen were like the size of linebackers. Like everybody pushed them around. So I think they get in. I just don't know if they're going to sustain. And at the end of the day, when the season is over, they're going to be a top 25 team. I don't think so.
I thought they would have scheduled the start of their season a little differently this year. It's not a cakewalk by any stretch of the imagination. I thought they would have put a 3 or 4, manageable games on their schedule to open it up so they could potentially start off 3-1 or 4-0. Or I don't think they're going to do that. I don't think they're going to get off to a great start because I think the start of their schedule is a little tough. So for that reason, I don't think they're going to get into the top 25. Had they made it a little more manageable early, Mo, I agree with you. I think they would have been in early, and then we wouldn't have seen them up there again because they start playing the actual competitive teams and teams that, they just don't match up against talent-wise. But they did give themselves challenges the first few weeks of the season, which props to you. You want to make sure you're pushing your program, and you want to make sure that if you are getting wins and you are getting off to a hot start, the national narrative isn't, well, you haven't played anybody. And that's the only reason you're 3-1 or whatever the case might be. So we'll see. We'll see what that group does.
Just for the record, though, a lot of the bigger schools, they schedule cupcakes early.
Oh, for sure. For sure.
You know what I mean? I'm not, look, Dion, if he's got that kind of confidence in his team, like you said, props to you. I didn't know. You knew more than I knew. I didn't know they had started off with a tougher schedule. I assumed they had a couple of, let's call it weaker schools that they could play to get off to a fast start. But if they've gone with a stronger schedule, then that makes me recalibrate. They're not going to be a top 25 team at all.
And again, we'll see. I mean, it's just one of those things where, in the NFL, you say any given Sunday. In college football, you can say the same thing, but the talent disparity in college football to the haves and the have-nots, it's too much at times to even think about overcoming. But we shall see. But right now, we are going to bring Will in. We've got some NBA stuff. We got some basketball stuff in general that we are going to talk about this morning. So if we're going to go basketball, of course, we are going to go Will. Will, welcome into the show this morning. How are you, sir?
How you doing today, guys? Thank you for having me on.
What's up, Will?
How you doing?
Will, let's start with this. We know you've heard it. Noah Lyles. He's all over the place. It started last season with his NBA comment. He doubled down this summer with not just the NBA. He mentioned American sports in general, Super Bowl, World Series. It doesn't matter if you are a world champion. You are not a world champion if you're a World Series champion, Super Bowl champion. The list goes on and on. Tyreek Hill took some shots at him earlier this week, saying that they are world champions if they win a Super Bowl. But there seems to be someone Noah Lyles adjacent. They're not mentioning his name, Will, but they are kind of giving credence to his argument, and that is Carmelo Anthony. Carmelo Anthony has come out, and he has said, although he didn't mention Noah's name, that he would not trade his gold medals in for an NBA championship, that he values the gold medal more than he would value an NBA championship. Will, let's start with you. I didn't think that Melo would be the one coming out of the woodwork here defending the gold medal over the NBA title, but here's where we are on a Wednesday.
First of all, Noah Lyles is talking out the side of his mouth. That's the first thing. He doesn't know because he hasn't been there in any of these two particular sports, football or basketball. Not saying that track is something that anyone can do. No, I'm not saying that by any stretch of the imagination. But when you go out there and work as hard as those guys do, and get the accolades, I mean, look at the NBA. The NBA is as international as you can get. So if you want to say so, with Dallas Mavericks, you got Luka, you got Embiid, you got Greek Freak. Your biggest stars are international players. He's just talking out the side of his mouth and not really thinking about what he's saying. In terms of Melo, anybody will say anything just to stay relevant. And I think that's what's going on with Melo because he never won. So he has nothing but to look at but gold medals. So yeah, between that fact and someone just wants to stay relevant, I think that's why he's talking. That's all it is. It's just talk. I don't think that he may value those gold medals because he did work hard and was pretty much the workhorse. But I bet you he'll trade them all in if he can get the title.
Mo, when your greatest accomplishments on a huge stage in your career, and that is one of his big accomplishments because, like Will just said, that gold medal run, he was the workhorse behind it. When you don't have an NBA title run to put up there with it, and that really is kind of the peak accomplishment when it comes to winning an accolade in your NBA basketball career, is it fair to say, of course, he would say that? Because he doesn't know what it's like to win an NBA title. So how could he say that I would give it up for that if he doesn't know what that experience is?
And that's why I would attack what he said and push back on it. You don't know the experience of going through a series and winning an NBA finals with a group of guys and that bond and that feeling of being an NBA champion. If Carmelo Anthony's going to get into the Hall of Fame, it's not a if, it's just when. But if he had Carmelo Anthony NBA champion alongside his name, he would be elevated in the way we see him in the overall stratosphere of basketball. But he doesn't have that. And I have no problem with anybody that says, well, I love my gold medals. I get it. The gold medal is a big deal because you rep your country and you brought back the gold. That is something to be proud of. But what you do for your career, what he's done for his whole career coming up, he's a basketball player. He's a professional basketball player. You can't say I would give up my NBA Finals championship for the gold medal any day of the week. You never won one. You wouldn't know. And until you've done that, look, somebody asked LeBron if he would do it. Somebody asked Steph if he would do it. Ask people that have done it would they would do it. Matter of fact, ask Charles Barkley, who never did it. Ask Patrick Ewing or some of the other greats who wanted to win an NBA title. That's all they thought about, and they came up short. Which one they would value more?
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot of them would disagree with Carmelo Anthony. They would certainly be proud of the gold medal, but the crowning achievement in your sport is to be able to win a championship, point blank, period. So I completely disagree with Melo. Look, I think a lot of guys are big on saying hot takes in this era. I think it's a hot take comment. I don't think it's a genuine comment.
Can you imagine, and you mentioned it earlier, Mo, can you imagine what it would be if that man had an NBA Finals ring on his finger right now? Imagine what his legacy would end up being between what he did in college, the Olympics, and what he would have done in the NBA. Imagine what he'll be right now.
Even more so, Will, if he wins the NBA championship and he's Finals MVP.
Yep.
He would be elevated. So I'm just gonna have to disagree with Melo. He wouldn't know. His biggest run, they made it to a Western Conference Finals when he was in Denver, and they lost to the Lakers. That's what his biggest run is. He would not know.
Nope,
So I'm just gonna disagree with him.
Well, we're talking NBA coaches this morning. We're going to go through a couple of gentlemen, and we're just going to go hot or cold. How warm is the seat they are on heading into this NBA season? Will, let's start with you with Taylor Jenkins of the Memphis Grizzlies. Obviously, Ja is back, so the team should be a lot better than they've been the last couple of seasons as Ja's been dealing with his off-the-court stuff and then his injury stuff as well. But in the meantime, you have had rumblings down there in Memphis that they don't like what they've seen when their superstar isn't there. Now, I don't know what you want to see. The NBA is not built to have all this depth exist when your best players are not playing. But apparently Memphis fans are looking for something different. Will, hot or cold, Taylor Jenkins come into the season?
I think Jenkins is cold. He's got some talent and some pieces. I would like to see more players who can create their own shot on that team. But he has some good pieces with Ja, Jaren Jackson, and Marcus Smart. He's got some pieces. Let's see what they can put around him and go from there. But I think it's cold.
Hot or cold, Mo?
I'm gonna go cold. Like, what is the man supposed to do?
Right.
He didn't just lose Ja Morant. Desmond Bain went down. Jaren Jackson Jr. went down. Marcus Smart went down.
Yep.
His best players were all sitting on the sideline with him. Phil Jackson could have been over there catching them L's. Nobody was going to win with that roster.
Mo, how do you feel about Billy Donovan with the Chicago Bulls?
Oh,
Man,
Lord.
He should have been fired like yesterday. So I don't even
2 years ago, he should have been fired.
Red hot. I'm still trying to figure out how he got a job. So red hot. I mean, although the funny thing is, because what they did in the offseason, there's completely low expectations. They're not expected to compete for anything now. So I'm gonna say hot, but it wouldn't shock me if they're somewhat mediocre, that'll be considered a good season.
I say hot. But again, he's hot, and I think he's there because he's capitulating with all the front office moves that they've done. He's gets capitulating to every freaking thing. This team should have been rebuilt 2 years ago. You should have fired this man 2 seasons ago. But now you're finally getting it. You're finally getting the fact that you need to rebuild. Okay. But I'm gonna say hot, but they deal with being middle of the road so much that's what that organization is used to now. So I won't be surprised if he stays.
Yeah. And what are they going to do with Josh Giddey, right? Like what's going to happen with that? If, let's say Josh Giddey has a Josh Giddey year, 11 points, 7 rebounds, 6 assists. Those aren't horrible numbers, Will, but he's going to be going into his lame duck contract year.
Yep.
What are you going to pay him? What are you going to pay Josh Giddey? I don't understand what they're doing. You brought a complimentary player in, and you're trying to hail him as a centerpiece, and
he's not. Then the whole thing that pissing me off with that whole trade, you didn't even get a draft pick. Come on, man.
And everybody and their mom in the league that wanted Alex Caruso was offering draft picks. The Bulls were like, you know what, though? We'll go straight up because we're getting Giddey. You know how much younger Giddey is than Caruso. We're getting Giddey.
They don't guarantee he's gonna sign back with you. So it's just craziness.
It is crazy.
Well, let's go to Willie Green with the New Orleans Pelicans. Hot or cold?
Cold. I want to see what they do with that team, provided Zion can stay healthy, and you got a Javante Murray on that team now, who is pretty much gifted to you. So I say it's cold for right now, because I want to see what that total potential of that team can be, and hopefully we get it this season.
Mo, how you feeling about Willie?
I'm gonna say cold, but I feel like we've read this book. We know how this story is gonna go. Zion's gonna have a really good year. They're gonna be pretty good, and at some point he's gonna be hurt. Yep. I don't think you can blame health on Willie Green, obviously, but I think at some point, I think they would be open to change just for the sake of change.
Mo, let's go to.
I love him as a guy.
Yeah,
but you know. The what if varied with him is more than anybody else, because again, you don't know if Zion's going to stay healthy or not, and that's your centerpiece.
Well, let's go to Portland. We got Chauncey Billups.
I don't think you should be hot. I mean, I would ask both of you guys this: who's the best player in Portland? You know what I mean? Like, I can ask you that. Now, I already know who the answer is, who it isn't. It's not Jeremy Grant.
No.
But who is? I don't know how he could be on the hot seat. Look what he's working with. I see a lot of young players with potential, but potential doesn't mean that it translates well once you get on the floor. I don't know anybody that has star power. I see potential. I don't know if that's on Chauncey Billups, because I don't think they did a great job of roster construction.
Well, it's a situation when Portland posts a Seal video the other day, and that it went viral. Their Seal video playing basketball went viral. You know, it's a situation when that is getting more talk than your actual basketball team is.
You got that in Billups' case. You got to have the horses in order to be successful, and it's this untapped potential on that team right now. And I don't know if he's the guy to bring that potential out of him. He's an older coach. He's someone who's brought up old school. So I don't know if these younger players are really going to take advantage of what he can teach them. So we have to see.
Will, how about Quinn Snyder with the Atlanta Hawks? So much talk about what Atlanta was going to do heading into this offseason. We have seen where things shake out. Criticize their moves, don't criticize their moves. At the end of the day, Atlanta is what Atlanta is. But do you think that Quinn Snyder is on the hot seat going into the season?
Part of me feels sorry for the dude. You lose Collins, you lose Murray for a box of cookies. Yeah, I agree with you, Gene. He's a really good coach, but he's just in a bad situation. You got Trae Young still there, but we all know what Trae Young is. He's not the most efficient player in the world. So, process of elimination, I think he's on the hot seat. He shouldn't be. The front office should be better to put a team around you and keep it around you, but because they didn't, I think he's on the hot seat.
I think he's on the hot seat because he hasn't been any better than Nate McMillan. It's about results. Nate McMillan got fired. They actually gave him, I would say, a more talented roster. He hadn't done anything. He's been living off of what he did in Utah, but the reality is he hasn't been better than Nate McMillan. So he should be on the hot seat. If we're being fair, he should be on the hot seat. They've actually regressed under, I don't care how good a coach he's supposed to be, as a unit, they've regressed under Quinn Snyder.
All right, Mo, last one. We're going to Milwaukee.
Oh, Lord.
Doc Rivers. Hot or cold going into the season, Mo?
See this answer right now.
You know what? I mean, the thing about Doc and the Bucks is it ultimately comes down to what they do in the playoffs. Like, I can't judge them in the regular season. I assume they're going to be a good regular season team. So I'll say hot once you hit the postseason. I don't think it's a thing in the regular season. And really, because they just fired old boy, you can't turn around, even though Doc could be horrible, and fire another coach. Like at some point, Giannis, you got to settle on somebody.
I think Milwaukee's waiting for him to stumble. You saw that they hired Darvin Ham right behind him. So I think I agree with Mo. Regular season wise, I think Doc will be fine. But when it comes down to the playoffs, when it comes down to the nitty-gritty and it's time for you to win, I think he'll be on the hot seat. This dude as a coach, he makes me mad, because if you go back and look at the talent this man has coached, extenuating circumstances or not, this dude has coached some of the biggest stars the game has and has failed on its biggest level. So I agree with you, Mo. When it comes down to the playoffs, when it comes down to the nitty-gritty, I think that's when he'll be on the hot seat the most.
An early exit, and he's fired for sure. Anything, I think with Milwaukee, anything less than playing in the conference championship, fired.
Yep.
All right, gentlemen, last thing we're doing today is we are going to talk the NBA Cup. I know you're excited for it. It was a success last year. You can't say it wasn't. The ratings were there. The digital media impressions were there. It will probably be bigger numbers wise this season. So let's have a quick conversation. I'm going to run through the groups. I just want your early predictions. Who is going to come out of the NBA Cup groups? Will, let's start with you and the East A group. It's Brooklyn, Charlotte, the Knicks, the Magic, and the 76ers. Who's coming out of the East A?
I got the Knicks.
I got the Sixers because I think the regular season is probably going to be like the highlight of their season. So yeah,
Mo, it is too early in the season to be throwing those daggers. Holy cow! Jeez, Mo. East B. Detroit, Indiana, Miami, Milwaukee, and Toronto.
I'll go Indiana. It matters more to them. I'll go Indiana.
I got Indiana too.
Will, East C, Atlanta, Boston, Chicago, Cleveland, Washington.
Boston.
Right.
I mean, that's a cakewalk.
Who else could it be?
That's a cakewalk. They can sleepwalk through that whole thing.
Right.
Unless Cleveland found some defense.
Yeah.
Let's jump to the West. The West A is Houston, the Clippers, the Timberwolves, the Trailblazers, and the Kings.
I'll go Timberwolves.
Yeah, Minnesota. They're the class of that group.
Will, West B, the Lakers, the Thunder, the Suns, the Spurs, and the Jazz.
Thunder.
I'm gonna go Lakers. It's the regular season. I mean,
you got a good point.
I'm a Laker fan. Look, I can already read out how this works. LeBron just won his second
back-to-back cups.
Yeah, I'm just being real. I'm just being real.
Hey, I can see the LeBronites right now. He did something that Jordan didn't do.
Right. I'm
around when Jordan was playing.
And I'm just being real. I can see that's just the way it's going to play out.
Defend the cup. I mean, watch him win the first 3. And then, the first time someone that's not LeBron went, well, LeBron had to leave for you to win the cup.
Right.
LeBron owned the cup. If it wasn't for LeBron retiring.
Man.
That's perfect.
Mo, and then we get to the death group. That is West C. We're talking the Dallas Mavericks, the Denver Nuggets, the Warriors, the Grizzlies, and the Pelicans. There is a lot of competition in that group. Mo, who comes out of there?
All things being equal and everybody's healthy, I'm gonna take the Grizzlies.
All things considered, with Clay, Luka, Kyrie, Denver's not being up to snuff. I got Dallas.
I like it, gentlemen. I like it. Will, where else can we see you today or the rest of the week?
You can catch me on the Geek Gauntlet podcast every Saturday night, 10 p.m. Eastern, Facebook, Twitch, and YouTube.
Will, as always, it is a pleasure. Enjoy the rest of your morning, sir.
Thank you, my friend. You guys have a great one.
You too.
Mo, always a pleasure having Will up here to talk a little NBA stuff. We got the NFL GENEius on deck, but before we get him up here, let's remind our listeners of what we accomplished yesterday, because I haven't talked to Gene about this. I don't know what he's going to do. He might come in here, Mo, and he might obliterate our quarterback list, and he might
chop it up.
He might make us feel this big. So while I'm still feeling confident about it, let's review what we have as far our best quarterbacks in the NFC. We put this list together yesterday, simply going through the entire league and just saying, who are they better than? And if once you hit, they're better than this person, but they're not better than that person, boom, that's where they went on the list. And here is what we came up with. Hurts was number 1, followed by Goff, Stafford, Cousin, and Caleb Williams. That's the top 5. Dak Prescott, Kyler Murray, Brock Purdy, Jordan Love, Jaden Daniels from Washington. That's the top 10. And then 11 through 16, Baker, Geno, Carr, Bryce Young, Sam Darnold, and Daniel Jones. So that's where we ended up yesterday. Now we are going to bring in the man himself, the NFL GENEius from Wire to Wire Sports Podcast. Gene is joining us on the show. He's wearing the captain's jersey over there. He's ready to go this morning. Gene, how are you, sir?
Oh, he got Pyramid, this guy.
Yeah, Booby Miles, baby. You want to win, put Booby in. I love my Booby Miles jersey, but I feel great today. I feel phenomenal.
Well, Gene, before we get to our quarterback list, let's start with what we talked about to kick off the show. Skip wants the Sanders. He wants the Sanders in Dallas. Gene, is it just a talking point? Is it one of those good stories? Do you see any likelihood of it happening? Obviously, if Dallas were to ever draft Shedeur as the quarterback and make him their franchise quarterback, you have to ask, is Deion going to come here and coach him? It's a logical question. But where do you see that going?
You think Deion and Jerry's head can fit in the same
No, I don't.
Look,
not even in the same stadium.
I feel like that they could draft Shedeur, and I feel like that would be it. Like if you sat back and looked at a crystal ball and said, all right, here's where we're at in 3 years. Would you sign up for this? Cowboys fans would sign up for that. But you have to get through the trenches. It's almost like you talk about the Sixers before they hit the process. Like, here's where we're at after the process. We get a number 1 pick, Joel Embiid, another number 1 pick. Would you sign up for that? Yeah, we'd sign up for it, but taking the blows and taking the hits of the losses is really tough to happen in Big D. And I'll be very clear with you and very frank. They start 1-3, you might see Dallas start tanking. You might see that because they can't pay all 3 of those guys.
No,
you can't pay Dak, you can't pay CD, and you can't pay Micah. The most logical answer for Dallas is to pay CD and to pay Micah and replace quarterback. That's logical. And if you can get Shedeur in the draft, look, man, let's see what Trey Lance has for 10 games. Let's see if he's the guy. If he's not, we lose a bunch of games and we have the opportunity to get Shedeur Sanders.
It's not terrible.
No, but Dion will never be the coach there. Just look at Jerry's track record. He's never hired an African-American head coach ever.
Nope, never.
So I don't believe that. And the first one he's not going to hire is not going to be the one that questions everything he does like Prime would.
No.
So I don't see that happening. But I will say this. If I'm a Cowboys fan and I can crystal ball this, and 3 years from now, I'm going into my second season with Shedeur Sanders as my quarterback, and I got CeeDee Lamb and Micah Parsons, I sign up for that. There's no way I don't.
Gene, yesterday, Mo and I put together our list of NFC quarterbacks. We're just going to go backwards for you, and we're going to go nice and slow. And when you have a problem, you let me know, okay?
Yes, sir.
All right. Worst quarterback in the NFC is Daniel Jones. Right above him is Sam Darnold. We okay so far?
Yeah, no issues.
Bryce Young ahead of them. Then we got Derek Carr, Geno Smith, and Baker. That's the bottom third of the NFC.
If we're splitting hairs,
we can split.
I would put Derek Carr ahead of Geno and Baker. We all look at what happened.
The issue is Mo hates Derek Carr. That's the issue over here.
It's not hate. Come on. It's not. Come on.
I think that what we did is we looked at what happened last year, and Baker Mayfield had a better season than Derek Carr. But if we look at the last 5 years,
yeah,
and compare both those quarterbacks, and let's be clear, Derek Carr is going to his second year in that organization. He was very good for the Raiders for years. I have to see if he wins over the locker room. It was very obvious he did not win over the locker room. That conservative Christian mentality, I guess, worked well in Vegas. It's not working well in New Orleans. Just be clear. And I think it's a personality gap. So let's see if he wins over the locker room.
Starting off the top 10, Daniels, Love, Purdy. Bottom third of the top 10.
Jaden Daniels, Jordan Love, Brock Purdy. I think Brock's too low, but we'll talk about that. There's nobody I have an issue with that Brock's ahead of. I think Jordan Love is probably too low also by a little bit.
Kyler is 7. Dak is 6.
I would have Brock and I would have Jordan Love over Kyler. Kyler's been known to be a bad teammate. I would take both those quarterbacks and move them, and I would have Dak and then Jordan Love, but I'm going to have Dak ahead of a few guys. You'll see in a second.
And then the top 5, Caleb Williams, Kirk Cousins, Matthew Stafford, Jared Goff, and Jalen Hurts.
This is my biggest issue with the whole list. I don't know if Mo is friends with Kirk Cousins. I don't know what Kirk Cousins has done to be listed ahead of Dak Prescott. I'm not kidding with you. Jordan Love has more playoff success than Kirk Cousins, and Jordan Love has played for 1 full year. There's no way I could put Kirk Cousins ahead of Dak Prescott. And even I hate Dak. I'm an Eagles fan, but there's not one thing that Kirk Cousins does on a football field that's better than Dak Prescott. Not one. And then Caleb Williams, I have to see it. I think he'll be great. And if we're redrafting the NFL, yeah, maybe I'd take Caleb Williams over those guys. But I love the top 3 of Jalen Hurts, Jared Goff, and Matt Stafford. I think Jared Goff is coming into his own, and I think that trade worked out for both teams with the Rams and the Lions. I love how that worked out for both teams, and I'm happy to see how that played out. And Jalen, I hope that he becomes the best quarterback in the NFC, but we'll see. I could see Jalen being 3 on that list.
All right, NFL GENEius. We're going to do the AFC side of it now. The way it works is we start with a name, and as we build, you just sandwich them between they're better than them, but they're not as good as them. We're going to start with Will Levis. Congratulations, Will Levis. For the next few seconds, you are the number 1 quarterback in the AFC. Soak it in. Well done. Let's go. Trevor Lawrence. Is he going above?
Trevor Lawrence is going above Will Levis.
Hey, you never know. Tennessee fans might try to tell you otherwise. Let's go to the Colts. Anthony Richardson.
I would put Anthony Richardson in between Trevor Lawrence and Will Levis.
What kind of season do you think he's going to have this year, Gene?
I love Shane Steichen. So I think Steichen will design an offense that'll make Anthony Richardson look better than he is. Anthony Richardson's not a guy that's going to ever – Anthony Richardson's going to do 2 things really well for you. He's going to run the football out of a read option, and he's going to be able to throw the deep ball very well. He is not and he is not a prolific passer of the football. If you watch Florida, Kentucky, you have to have like goggles on. Like you cannot watch that game. It is awful. When Will Levis played against Anthony Richardson in college, if you watch that football game, I don't know how either one of the guys ever got drafted after that game, but I understand the intangibles. I think Anthony Richardson has a better season than I think he's really capable of because of the offensive coordinator.
And then the last quarterback, excuse me, in that division is C.J. Stroud.
Yes. So I have to put C.J. ahead of all of them. I have to. I'd go C.J., Trevor, and then Anthony Richardson, Will Levis.
All right. So right now, Stroud is at the top of the heap. With the Steelers, we're going to go both because I think it's a 1-1A situation. So let's start with Russell Wilson. The current list is Stroud, Lawrence, Richardson, and Levis.
You can put both those quarterbacks directly in the middle of the AFC South. Like I'd put them behind Stroud and Lawrence. I'd put them ahead of Richardson and Levis. I would put Fields ahead of Wilson, though. That's just my own little critique.
All right. Fields is going ahead of Wilson. Let's keep going over there in the AFC North. Deshaun Watson.
This is the toughest one because like we keep living on Deshaun Watson from Houston.
Yep.
I'll still put him ahead of Anthony Richardson. I'm putting him behind everybody else.
All right. The Deshaun fans are not going to like that, NFL GENius. I'm saying.
Sure Cottrell will give me crap for it and say that they were 5-1.
Yep, they were.
But they were 5-1 off the back of the number one defense in football last year.
100%.
100%. Incredible.
Joe Burrow.
He's at the top right now. Put him at the mountaintop.
Right ahead of Stroud. And then we got Lamar Jackson.
All right. So I'm going to put Lamar ahead of Joe Burrow, which is the first time I've ever done that. And I'll tell you why. I think Joe Burrow might retire. And I really believe that if he has another injury, like, man, if you see this guy come out with a training camp injury, a week 1 or a week 2 injury, I think this might be it for Joe. I think you might see another Andrew Luck thing. They've never been able to protect him. He's questioned. When a quarterback says, I'm questioning my mortality, that's like red flag city. I'll put Lamar ahead of Joe. I think Joe, fully healthy, is the better quarterback, but Joe has not really been fully healthy all but one season.
Correct. Jump into the AFC West, Justin Herbert.
Oh, man.
It's such an interesting case study because you look at Herbert, and if you're talking ceiling, you're talking top 5. But then you got to start looking at results. It's tough.
This is going to sound really bad. I don't care. But put him behind Trevor Lawrence. That's exactly where I have him. So here's the thing. You can compare Justin Herbert and Trevor Lawrence's careers. And they played one time in the playoffs, and Trevor Lawrence won that football game. And Trevor Lawrence was terrible in the first half, threw 4 interceptions. And Justin Herbert was terrible in the second half when it mattered. And Trevor Lawrence was great. I'll take the guy that's won the playoff game with the worst team. I'll take Lawrence over Herbert.
With the Raiders, I guess we're going to go Minshew because he's projected to be their starter.
You can put him right ahead of Will Levis.
Fair. Oh, no. Gardner. I like Minshew.
I like Gardner, too. And Gardner's the perfect backup quarterback for your organization.
100%.
He is.
Like, you know what he is? You know what Gardner Minshew is? He's Ryan Fitzpatrick.
Yes.
Same player.
Oh, I love me some Ryan Fitzpatrick in Miami. Right. Let me tell you, jeez.
You don't want him to be your starter.
No.
You want him to come in and win you a couple games if your quarterback goes down. You want him to come in there with the Fitz magic. You want him wearing the chain that he wore in Tampa Bay when he's throwing the ball. But you don't want him to be your starter.
Gene, who is going to be the starting quarterback in Denver? Which Denver quarterback gets the honor of being on this list? Is it Bo?
It'll be Bo Nix. Bo Nix will start for them.
Where do you want Bo?
Last. Put him last.
All right. Bo Nix is going last behind Mr. Levis. And then we got Patrick Mahomes.
Oh, he's 1.
Mahomes to the top. All right. So as we are pushing through, let's give a quick little update for our listeners here. Mahomes, Jackson, Burrow, Stroud, Lawrence are currently the top 5. Then we got Herbert, Fields, Russell Wilson, Deshaun Watson, Anthony Richardson, Gardner Minshew, Will Levis, and Bo Nix. We're not done yet, though.
Yeah.
We are not done yet. We still have one division to go. Aaron Rodgers.
Oh, give me Aaron's got to be ahead of Trevor Lawrence.
Is he ahead of Stroud?
That's where I'm at right now. Do I look like so? Like, this is a weird question, right? Are you asking like for one season where they're at this year coming in?
Yep.
So I got to put him ahead of CJ Stroud too. I think Aaron Rodgers won 2 MVPs in the last 5 years. I'll put Aaron Rodgers just ahead of CJ Stroud.
And even though I hate the New York Jets, I look at the people who are doubting Aaron Gene, and I say to myself, we can't count last year. He hurt himself 3-4 plays into the season. Last year is a wash. You take away that and you look at his last handful of years in Green Bay, he was talked about as one of the best quarterbacks in the league.
Yep. He won 2 MVPs in the last 3 years in Green Bay.
Right. All right, let's go to Drake May.
Oh, you can have a new last. I think I said this.
Oh, God.
But I said this when he got drafted. I think Drake May is, if it's not him, I think he's the worst quarterback that's drafted this year. Like, not drafted this year, but like as far as that top 5 or 6
right
that went, I think that Drake May has got the biggest bust potential. And you're bringing him into a situation where you're giving him no wide receivers. There's no offensive line. I think Drake May is awful this year.
That leaves us with 2. The first one up is Tua Tagovailoa.
Okay, so objectively, I'm going to put him right after, and you might hate me for this, I'm going to put him right after Trevor Lawrence. I put Trevor Lawrence ahead of him by a shade right now.
I have no issue with that.
Okay.
I think right now Tua, Lawrence, and Herbert are very much the same.
You are absolutely correct.
They are very much the same. You have people who will talk potential. You have people who will talk flaws. And at the end of the day, none of them have really hit the ceiling that everyone thought they were going to hit or are expected to hit with where their teams are currently. So I think they should always be grouped together until one of them does something worth talking about.
I agree with you.
All right. And then that leaves us with Josh Allen.
So this is prediction based for me. I think Josh Allen has his best season as a pro. I'm actually sprinkling a little bit on Josh Allen to win the MVP of football this year.
All right.
I think this will be the first year where he won't have to blanket target one player. And I think that'll eliminate a lot of his mistakes. I'm going to put Josh Allen right behind Patrick Mahomes.
So you got Josh Allen, which is, by the way, as much as I don't like the Buffalo Bills or Josh Allen, I would have agreed with you. A couple of years ago, Josh Allen was called the number 2 quarterback in the NFL, and I think it was deserved. Coming out of that playoff game with Patrick Mahomes and the turnaround that he had with the Buffalo Bills, Josh Allen was the second best quarterback in the league. Now, obviously, he's had some struggles here and there since then, but I have no issue with that. Let's round it out. Here is the top 17, because we took 2 quarterbacks from the Pittsburgh Steelers to round out this list. But Mahomes, Allen, Jackson, Burrow, and Rodgers are your top 5. The bottom half of your top 10 is CJ Stroud, Trevor Lawrence, Tua, Justin Herbert, and Fields. They round out your top 10. And then the bottom third is Russell Wilson, Deshaun Watson, Anthony Richardson, Gardner Minshew, Will Levis, Bo Nix, and Drake May.
Super happy with that.
Look at that list, gentlemen. Mo, what are your thoughts, sir?
I don't have a problem with that. Although I don't know, I probably would have left Will Levis last, but it's okay. it's fine.
I wanted to give Mo his flowers because I was listening to the beginning of the show, and like my head was going with an opinion, and it was almost like my head was saying the opinion and Mo was speaking it. I'm like, man, you are a treasure, bro. I love listening to you. And like you got me to jump out of my chair with your 76ers comment, but I'd be lying if I told you I didn't believe it.
Gene, before we get you out of here, obviously want you to hype up the show tonight, but let's talk a little wrestling.
Okay.
2025. It's the John Cena retirement tour. He doubled down yesterday. He was asked, because we know how wrestling goes. Ric Flair retired, Shawn Michaels, they all come back. But John Cena was very clear. He's like, I'm going on a year-long retirement tour. I'm done in December. I am not going to tell people for a year I'm retiring and then come back 6 months later. He goes, when it's done, it's done. And I'm done in December 2025. Gene, if you're fantasy booking, give me a couple of names that gotta be on the John Cena retirement tour, because we have no idea what this looks like. Is he going to win another title? Will he be a 17-time champion? Is he going to get the IC title in there? It's the belt he's never won. You got people lining up. CM Punk is like, I want to win the tag titles with John Cena. That would be a dream of, like, you have wrestlers coming out of the woodwork, throwing all character and kayfabe to the side and being like, I want to be a part of the John Cena retirement tour. Seth freaking Rollins said in an interview 2 weeks ago, I want a match with John during his final run. I want to get one more Cena match in there. So, Gene, if you're fantasy booking it, what do you need to see on your checklist for the John Cena retirement tour?
I'm going to tell you what I don't need to see. I don't need to see another fake title run from a guy that's washed. Now, nothing against John. I love John, and I think that John, in the midst of his career, is a Mount Rushmore wrestler, and there's no doubt about it, right? But, like, he's definitely washed. And, like, to throw him on a tour, like, I get it, man. Like, but it needs to be, like, a step above what they did for Edge. Like, give him the matches he wants and in the arenas he wants, but we're not throwing him on another championship tour. That's silly. If you want to give him a tag team belt because of how devalued that division is, fine. I'm okay with that. I will say this, though. Put him in you could put Seth Rollins, and Ryback said this the other day, which he's kind of a weirdo, but you could put Seth Rollins in a match with a broom, and he would make the broom look good.
Yes.
Like he would. And I would love to see Seth Rollins and John Cena. I would love to see CM Punk, who's another washed wrestler, fighting with John Cena. But I don't want to see like a fake. If you have him take the title off of Cody, Roman, or Gunther, you're out of your damn mind. It's not believable. That's like not real. Now, if you want to have him beat Braun Breaker because he outsmarts Braun Breaker and get that IC belt that he's alluded, I would be okay with that. I wouldn't be sick to my stomach. You haven't beat LA Knight or win the US title again? I don't know. I've seen that. But the matches I need. What?
No, I was like, yeah, beat LA Knight. I'm fine with that.
But the matches I need to see another Cena versus Orton. That was his, like, that's what I have to see. I would love to see Cena versus Seth, Cena versus CM Punk. Those things are things I would enjoy watching. If you put them on a tag team run, you got to give them a guy that's I remember Hawk and Animal when we were talking about the Legion of Doom, where Animal was not a stamina wrestler. He would sit on the ringside while Hawk got his ass beat the entire fight, and then he would tag in and go nuts. Like, that's got to be what Cena is, right? Give him the 5 moves of doom and, like, let him tag in where you got a guy that does the stamina stuff for that fight. But that's kind of where I'm at with Cena.
I like everything you said. The only one that's on my list, and that probably won't happen because of the injury he just suffered, because he decided at his age he wanted to jump off the top of a cage, which was stupid in my opinion. But that is Edge. So Edge is recovering from his broken leg. Oh, and he's an AEW talent. That's part of it as well. But right up there with the Orton stuff was the Cena Edge stuff. They had some great feuds back in the day. Right. Gene, what's going on tonight? Wire to Wire Sports.
We have our tight ends list, and I have somebody in my top 5 that will be in no one's top 5 tight end list. I cannot wait to get into that. He's in your division. I'll give you a hint. I don't mind if you guess it, but like he's in your division. But he won't be on anybody's. I have him over like Mark Andrews.
It's not Jonnu Smith, is it?
No, it's not.
I like Jonnu Smith. I'm saying.
But we're going over tight ends list. We got UFC talk, trivia. We're going to wrap up the Olympics. There's going to be a big conversation around the LeBron James, Steph Curry, Team USA basketball. Because look, I'm a Michael Jordan is GOAT guy. I'm a big Michael Jordan is GOAT. But like, man, some of these LeBron haters are they just hate the hate. They wake up and they're like, I want to hate. If you watched all of Team USA's run in basketball in the Olympics and don't think LeBron James was the most instrumental part of it, great. Steph had 2 great games, but LeBron James led that team.
Yep.
And if you don't think he was the MVP, You're just hating. He was the best player on that team. He was the leader of that team. Steph had the most miraculous moment, but no, we're not doing that. Come on.
Before we get you out of here, Gene, it was announced by Dana White this morning that Conor McGregor will not make his return in 2024. Are we going to see Conor McGregor fight again?
Probably, but now you see that they severed their relationship with USADA for no reason now, because the only reason they severed their relationship with USADA was because they wanted to be able to get Conor McGregor to fight without having to go through 6 months of anti-doping.
Yeah.
And now he's not fighting the whole year.
Yeah.
So they severed their relationship with the best drug administration company in the world because of Conor McGregor. And now he's not fighting.
It's wild. It's wild over there. Gene, we appreciate you coming on every Wednesday,
you.
sir. We'll see you tonight on Wire to Wire.
Appreciate you guys. Great stuff.
Mo, I think with Conor McGregor, you're looking at one of those situations where you're looking more at what he was and and he'll still be entertaining, right? If Conor comes back, he is still going to be one of the most entertaining things happening because he's still going to run his mouth. He's still going to do the whole pony trick show and dance. I just don't know where he is as a fighter when you're talking 2025 as a potential return for him.
And I think that's the problem. Everything you hit on, he's going to be entertaining. He's a big personality. He's still a draw. But once he gets inside the ring in the octagon, is he going to be the same guy? I don't think so.
Mo, let's be honest. You're signing up for John Cena to take the U.S. title off of LA Knight, aren't you?
I would sign up for you to take it off of LA Knight.
Stop it.
I just don't like that guy.
Listen. If I was a wrestler, we've all thought about this. All right, I'm gonna put you on the spot. But I'm gonna give you time to think about it in case you don't have it queued up. If I was a wrestler, my finishing move would be the Famouser. Billy Gunn's finishing move.
Oh, I love that.
As like a 13-year-old, I thought that was the great. Now, looking at it as much older, I'm like, it's not that great. It's just a jumping leg drop. But I loved it when I was younger. So that was always going to be my finishing move, the Famouser.
I think that will work. It's LA Knight. I think you could do that. I think you can get him out of there with just a simple trip. My finishing move when LA Knight would just be the trip. I'll just trip him and pin him.
Mo, bring us to a close on a Wednesday.
Thank you guys so much for joining Chris and I this morning on a wonderful Wednesday. We appreciate you guys. Check out all the great entertainment we have for you at the Wire to Wire Network. Wire to Wire Network, we appreciate you.
Hey, make sure you guys are back here same time, same place tomorrow. We got more NFL training camp news. We might even have a JG appearance. If you didn't see Juan Soto last night, single-handedly carrying the Yankees his first 3 home run game as a Yankee. All of that and more. Coffee and Sports. It's the morning show powered by Wire to Wire Network, and we'll see you tomorrow morning.